Hello guys and girls, how are you doing today? It's Inga Roleplayer once again, and today I want to show you the build that I had on the walks for the last couple of weeks. And this is a pretty much classic Golemancer or Golementalist, or the Flame Golems, whatever Golems build for the Elementalist Ascendancy in Path of Exile. It's the Witch Ascendancy. So basically I really wanted to try Golemancer because I wanted some crazy boring and walking build, and Golemancer builds were always kind of out of my budget as I was mostly poor for the many leagues. But since I gathered enough currency, I decided to start the Golemancer, mess around and see just what's happening in the Golemancer world right now. I made some research, I asked some people who are familiar with the build, and eventually I settled up on the kind of a build that I really wanted to make. It's a mix of everything basically, and I made some different changes to the builds that are people using, so I kind of accommodated this build to myself, to my needs, and what I think it might be one of the easiest setups to play right now in general. So there are two golems that can be used as the damage dealers right now, which is the Flame Golem and the Lightning Golem. And Flame Golem, in my opinion, does much more damage than the Lightning Golem, at least by the numbers. But in reality, they must be pretty damn close. And it all depends mostly on the single target, where the Flame Golem beats Lightning by a huge margin, as far as I could understand. As for the different ways how you can play golems right now, it's basically the pure life golems, the pure energy shield CI, or just just the hybrid version. Hybrid, I think, is the most flexible and the most affordable one, and this is the route that I personally took in my building of the setup, and this is what I can show you guys right now. This is the Abexod, as far as you can remember, by the way. This is beyond maps with a lot of stuff going on. This is the palace, this is a high tier map, and you can see how just the beasts are destroying everything. Yeah, I also run with the Rampage Viscous leash hair belt, which drops my energy shield and life by a bit, but I get rampage stacks and more mobility to my golems. So take a look at the pros and the cons on the build, guys. I will let you know how it goes. For the pros of the build, I will say that it was the fastest leveling I've ever had in Path of Exile. Granted, I had all the things like the table, I had all the gear and the gems, but apart from that, it was the absolute blast to level up, and I made it to like the 85 in a couple of days, which usually doesn't really happen that fast for my other builds. The clear speed is pretty amazing, especially on the lower levels. On the top levels, it's becomes a little slower because the HP of the monsters is really high, but it's still very fast comparing to some other builds that I played. So it's very cool. Also, the bossing is very cool because you're basically very passive. You run around buffing your golems, and bosses die tremendously fast. It's super safe bossing build. Maybe the safest, even the safest than the totems, because totems kind of have shit life, they always die, but golems have tremendous amount of life. They have almost over 20,000 life and regenerate like 5,000-7,000 per second, so it's pretty hard to kill them, and even bosses can kill him. Even the endgame bosses can really kill them that much. So for bossing, this is one of the best builds I've ever played. I killed that Zero at level 68 with like level 16 gems, which is incredibly fast. Shaper was super easy as well. It was the easiest Shaper kill I've ever had, with with level 90 gems, by the way, so it was super fucking easy. These are the pros of the build, I would say. It's pretty fast, and it's a terribly crazy amount of bossing damage, and it's very safe as well. For the cons of the build, I would probably say that this build requires some currency investment, especially on the very early level, because some gems for the golems. They worth like an Exile, for example, the Animal Stone and the Primordial Might. And they could be pretty hard to pull off, especially early on in the game while leveling up. But if you have all the gems ready and a couple of lucky Exiles drop, you will just fucking, you know, skyrocketly high progress through the game, because it will be very, very fast into the very end game. Probably the fastest end game mapping build I've ever seen so far. Also, if you're aiming for a very high energy shield or life, it can be pretty expensive as well, because, you know, I have some legacy gear that I decided to buy on the standard, but mostly the rings and some gloves and boots and shit. But if you are not going for legacy, it will be still pretty expensive, because you will need the top rolls on the both energy shield and life, because this is a hybrid build, and I strongly recommend it to go hybrid to take most of both life and energy shield. There's also a bit of a problem with chaos damage, because if you're not going with the Chevron's droppings and the CI, you know, and basically the Chayula amulet, you will have some problems with the chaos damage. But I kind of mitigated this a bit with a decent life pool. About 3000 life is pretty enough. I have no problems surviving chaos damage. There's also the chaos resist flask that I'm running with. It also helps. And there's also chaos resist on my helm that I have. So it's not entirely a dramatic problem. And I believe that it's really worth the effort without having this 3000 life instead of going CI. It's a great option, I think. And this is pretty solid build as it is. Like I mentioned, if you're not going for the legacy gear, it can be a little more affordable, but still quite expensive, maybe, because you need to have the basically max ES gear everywhere where it's possible. Look at the path of building, guys. I will let you know how you should progress within the tree. So we start as a witch here and take most of the fat energy shield nodes up till here, then grab the heart and soul. The first thing that I want you to do is to progress and grab a little more strength, because you need around 50 strength to start using your flame golem, and without investing here on the bottom, it is entirely impossible unless you are getting strength on some boots, gloves, or everything else. So as soon as you progress here on the right, take this, because it increases your life and energy shield. Then grab your first jewel nodes and basically progress through here on the left. On the bottom, take this, and grab all strength here down below. This is the first priority. After you grab enough strength, it's not really a problem, and you will have enough strength to use to level your flame golems and start grabbing more jewel nodes and life and energy shield on the tree. First, I would progress on the right and grab this node, because they give you 9% of your effective HP. Grab this, then try to get this, which is quick recovery, and you can start progressing here on the left. Get as soon as you get more energy shield, you can get Zealot's Oath, basically more nodes, more jewels. I would also start gathering this, basically keep in mind that we need as much jewel slots as possible, and right now I have 12 jewel sockets. That's what you need. So that's about it. As the very last nodes, I personally start bumping more energy shield on me. That's why I took this, I took all this, and mana reservation nodes is also very important, so that you can run blasphemy, discipline, as well as anger as well. This is very important. These are pretty much like the last nodes here, as well as energy shield. Everything else is pretty straightforward, just life, energy shield, and as much jewel nodes as possible. For the Ascendancy, the first thing that you should take as Legion of the Primordial. This is mandatory. It will give you one additional golem. will become immune to elemental damage as well. And next is basically the Elementalist. This is where you will become immune for each type of golems that they have summoned. When you have your Ice Golem summon, you will become immune. You can be chilled or frozen. This is a fucking huge deal. So basically, you don't need your freeze flask on the toolbar. Then Flame Golems, basically, you are immune to ignite, and Lightning Golem, you are completely immune to shock. You cannot be shocked. This is absolutely a huge deal. For the Mercy Lab, I took Paragon of Calamity. This is not really that much, but helps you survive more and gives you old resist as well. For the Uber Lab, it's not really that important at all. You can not do Uber Lab at all because it gives you absolutely nothing. But I took just elemental damage and elemental damage in this, just in case I'll be casting something. That's about it. For the skill gems, for the jewels, guys, like I said, we'll be using the Golem jewels, and there's a lot of them. We will need 1 Primordial Eminence, 1 Anima Stone, 1 Primordial Might, and the rest will be Primordial Harmonist because they buff your existing golems. We'll be also running 7 golems at a time with 4 different types of golems. We'll be running 4 Flame Golems, 1 Ice Golem, 1 Lightning Golem, and 1 Stone Golem. These 4 different types of golems buff all your existing golems, and through the Primordial Harmony they also get reduced cooldown, regeneration, and basically increased damage per type. I try to calculate things like how many golems are optimal, what do you need, like for 2 different types, 3 different types, or maybe 5 flame golems or 6 flame golems. But eventually I settle up on this setup with 4 different types of golems because it gives us important quality of life immunity through the Ascendancy. I think this is pretty important. This is basically really helps you towards mapping process a lot. As for the passives and bandits, this is basically 2 passive points. We don't need anything else, so as much jewels as possible. For the items, I will take a look more in the actual section where we'll discussing the endgame items. But for the jewels, I can tell you that will be, aside from the Golem jewels, we'll be also using 2 jewels on our Darkness Enthroned Stygian Vice belts, and this will be basically just life energy shield, as well as minions have increase in attack speed if your minions have killed recently. You can also have this, like minions have chance to taunt on hit with attacks because your Stone Golem will attack with a melee attack. And also just flat attacking cast speed for your golems is extremely good as well. Though this is what you will need, especially the energy shield will be having. This is very important. That's about it, guys. Thanks. For early leveling, I strongly recommend you to get Tabula as fast as possible. As for the rest of the gear, I personally use Wanderlust with 2 life sprigs, so nothing crazy. Then I quickly transition to the Bonds of Ruler because they are incredibly cheap and they give you +1 Spectre and Zombie, which is a huge deal early on in the game. As for the skill gems, I personally use Summon Raging Spirit with Summon Phantasm and Kill, faster casting and minion damage on the falling. The other 2 fallings were Spectres and Zombies with whatever additive damage you can have, like the added lightning, minion speed, minion damage, whatever added cold. Doesn't really matter, basically anything. There are many cool options that you can use as well, which are, for example, the Nocturnal Caress, which are massive amount of cast speed early on for your summon Raging Spirits. Later on you can transition to the boots like the Brine Rod Whalers, which give you tremendous amount of energy shield early on. As for the other gear, I would personally recommend other boots like the Steam Track, for example. As for the helms, there are many cool options as well, but I personally settle up on the Scorn, which gives us almost 170 energy shield very early on, which is huge. And we can put our curses here as well, and it gives you tremendous amount of curse support. For the more later game, you can buy the verdicts, because it gives you +1 all socketed gems, and this is what I was lucky to get with my flame golems enchant as well. As soon as you hit level 41, you should be buying 2 clay shapers, and this is where your actual flame golem journey begins, guys, because this is what you'll be using for the entire game as well. Let's take a look at the end game gear and skills, and I want to show you all the details. So basically the 6 links should be Flame Golem, Minion Damage Support, Spell Echo, GMP, Elemental Focus, and Control Destruction. I think that this is the optimal setup, and you don't really need anything else like the fire penetration or something else. I think it's not really needed. Like I said, I took down Shaper on the first attempt, and most bosses die all the time, so it's not really that important, to be honest, to get something extra like the extra penetration. On the head I have my mask, the Verdict's Val mask, which gives me +1 to level of socketed gems, as well as some chaos damage, and the enemies cannot leech mana from me. This is pretty damn good for my flesh offering, which I cast. It is the only thing that I cast, literally. So the skill gems on this are Enlighten, Blasphemy, Flammability, and Discipline. And don't forget this also gives me +1 to socketed gems, so I have a +1 Discipline, +1 Enlighten, which is very, very important, as well as everything else, and Blasphemy with my curse as well, which is Flammability. On the weapons we have Clay Shapers, which as max minion life as possible. Try to get these ones. This gives us additional golem, and we get this as level 41. Buy this as soon as fast as possible. This will be your absolutely first investment. The links that I have here are Enlightened Support with Generosity and Anger. This is basically just gives fire damage to the spells of our flame golems. On the right we have another Clay Shaper, which gives us cast when damage taken support with Phase Run and Convocation. This is a very cool setup, by the way. Phase Run gives us mobility that we need to run away through the enemies, because we run through the enemies when we get phasing. And Convocation effectively summons all golems around you when you get hit. This is very, very important actually, and very, very cool effect, and you don't need to level up this as much as possible, because it is not really important. They don't give really, this regeneration is not really important at all. Gloves are basically absolutely anything with just as high as energy shield as possible. And by the way, I have the legacy chest, legacy gloves, legacy boots, and the legacy rings for the energy shield as well. So the only difference between this legacy gear and the gear that you will have in the actual temporary league or the challenge league, as you will just have a little less energy shield and nothing more than this. Right now I have 9.5 energy shield, and you will maybe have like a 7 to 8,000, which is still a big deal, to be honest. It's more than enough to sustain all damage within the game, so don't be scared by the legacy gear. I just decided to buy this legacy gear, and I just bought this, and I think this is, if you can play standard, if you can buy some legacy gear and have fun on standard, just buy it. It's not that expensive at all. There's no like 40 Exile stuff here. These boots are like 2 or 3 Exiles. This is, I believe, 2 Exiles. The rings are, I think, an Exile are even less than this. It's not really crazy. The rings are very cheap, so this is it. The gloves are total and environmental resistance. This is where our golems are, guys. This is basically a lightning golem, stone golem, and ice golem. This is our active golems here that we'll be using here, and this got a resistance for them as well. On the boots we have increased duration with flesh offering, desecrate, and Val Discipline. Val Discipline is like your energy shield flask. It's actually very good, so do not use it wisely. Just save your Val Discipline for the required you know, bad situation where there are no monsters but you have the Val Discipline, you get damage, you see your shield dropping, this is why you should press your Val Discipline and get your energy shield back. With increased duration, that really helps you recharge for quite a bit of time, and I think this is very, very important. The rest of the gear is mostly energy shield, resist, and life as well. Don't forget that we have life as well, because we are not immune to chaos damage. Even though we are immune to poison, we are still not immune to chaos damage, which is very important to have. So this is it. Increased maximum energy shield. This is the legacy ring. Basically resist and energy shield, nothing crazy. For the belt, we have darkness and throne, and this is have 50% increased effect of your socket jewels, and it means we have more life, more energy shield, and more attacking cast speed for our minions as well. This is basically it. Life, energy shield, and some kind of useful attacking cast speed for the minions. There's also a very cool thing called hinder with spells on cast. So basically Flame Golems can hinder and reduce the enemy's movement speed by 30%, which is very, very strong as well. I have this gem on the Bestial League, but this is standard, so I'm still waiting for them to be delivered. As for the options, like I said, there are many ways how you can play this build with pure life, pure energy shield, or a hybrid, but I think hybrid is the most viable right now. There are many great chests which can be used as well, which is Chevron's dropping, will totally save us from the chaos damage. It has moderate amount of energy shield as well. Skin of the Loyal doubles our energy shield, increases it by 100%. Well, not doubles, but increases by 100%. And if you have decent amount of energy shield on your boots or gloves or the helm, it can really help you get a decent amount of energy shield. And this is quite useful chest, but the problem will be getting the right amount of colors, and season is always corrupted most of the time, so this can be a pain in the ass to get 4 blues and green on this. Another not so bad option is actually in the Infernal Mantle, which gives us +1 to socket fire gems, increases fire damage, a decent amount of energy shield, as well as a fire damage converted to chaos damage. The only problem with this is we will be taking increased spell damage, because we will always be most of the time on low mana with our all reserved mana for the anger, blasphemy, and discipline. So it's up to you to decide, but I think it's not entirely the worst option as well. For the speed farming, guys, I really wanted to say you for the speed farming build version of the build, which I've currently used to farm maps, is there is a thing called minions have increased movement speed, which you can get on the jewels as well as on the rings as well. It is an essence craft. And for the speed farming, minion speed is actually incredibly good. This is why I switched one of the energy shield rings where my energy shield drops with the Viscous Leash and one of the minion speed rings, which I think is very good. Viscous Leash gives you rampage when basically gives you rampage all the time, and rampage give more minion speed to the minions as well as movement speed to you, so it's incredibly strong. And on an open maps, the Viscous Leash with a 1 movement speed, a minion ring are absolutely fantastic. It will work like a total blast. This will definitely drop your energy shield, but I think it's really worth it, because if you don't really care, if you don't die that much, movement speed is all that matters. A lot of people also use the presence of Chiula as an additional layer of energy shield as well as chaos resist. I personally do not really find it that important at this point. When you get enough energy shield from the legacy gear or just from the good gear, as well as decent amount of life pool, I think that presence of Chiula can be really dropped, and just a normal energy shield resist amulet can be used, because resists are very important. And since you don't really care for crit chance or crit multiply or any other garbage, you can just go life, fat intelligence, energy shield on your amulet and be absolutely set. Let's talk about the Flasks, guys, really fast, because Flasks are actually very easy, cheap, and basically free in this build. First thing that I use is the Quicksilver with double movement speed, which is basically my legs, my feet, and everything else. The second is Basalt Flask, because physical damage reduction is a big problem in this build. You don't really have armor or any kind of Arctic armor and shit. You can run Chaos Golem, but I think that it's not really worth it. It gives tiny amount of physical reduction. It's not really worth it in the end. As well as even if you get Rumi's Convocation block chance, it won't really save you that much. So just a Basalt Flask with direct physical damage reduction, I think it's very safe. I also have additional elemental resistance on this as well. Another one is the Bismuth Flask. It's basically resist. I don't really care about anything else, to be honest, so resist, and that's about it. Move speed is also cool to have on this. The fourth is the Amethyst Flask, and this is my Chaos resistance, because like I said, we are prone to Chaos damage. We don't have Chiula, we don't have the Chevron swapping, so Chaos damage can kick our ass pretty hard. And to be honest, I haven't really died that much from the Chaos damage for all my journey, but still, an Amethyst Flask, I think it's very good to have. And also removes bleeding on this one as well, because we can fucking bleed. This one is just Life Flask with immune to curses. So basically the curse and the bleed flask is all I use, because like I mentioned, our Ascendancy gives us immunity to the freeze and chill, ignite and shock, so anything else is not even that important at all. Pantheon Gods, I took Soul of Arakali because it reduces damage taken from damage over time, as well as increases the rate of life and energy shield if we stop taking damage over time, as well as Chaos resistance negate damage over time, and this is literally all that matters for our build. Damage over time, Chaos damage, and energy shield regeneration. That's all that matters for us. As a minor god, we have the Soul of Shikari against 5% reduced Chaos damage taken, 25% reduced Chaos damage taken over time while in a Caustic Cloud. This also helps, and immune to poison. This is very important as well, because poison deals Chaos damage over time. It's a debuff and it can be stacked on us pretty hard, so it helps. Although it doesn't really make us completely immune to Chaos, it still makes us immune to poison, which deals Chaos damage, which actually helps you surviving some poison damage enemies and shit on the maps. Now let me talk about viability of hardcore for this build. In fact, this is one of the few builds that I would recommend for hardcore, because it's so incredibly safe. It's ranged, your golems do most of the damage, and if you take the safest route and get, for example, the Chevron swappings, you will get not that much energy shield, but you will be super safe for Chaos damage, and you can stack a huge amount of life and energy shield on you and have around 8,000 effective kind of mitigation. This is what most Golementalist had right now on the leaderboards. Like I said, I've explored a lot of things prior to making this build, and a lot of people actually do hybrid builds as well, not a single CI build. Most people just take Chiulas and Chevrons, or the Skin of the Loyal, or Chiula, and just go as is, and that's about it. So this build is actually hardcore viable. It's very safe against bosses. Even with double bosses, it's pretty damn safe, and for mapping it's pretty safe as well. Just if you don't take Chiula or Chevrons, you just have some Chaos resistance, maybe stack some Chaos resistance on the rings and shit, but otherwise it's pretty damn safe build. And for endgame bossing, like I said, cheaper and at zero, it's extremely fucking safe. Maybe the safest one that I have, even safer than the totems, because like I mentioned before, totems easily die. They just fucking squishy, don't have so much life regeneration as we have from our Primordial Harmony jewels. So totems are squishy and golems are not. They are tough as fuck, to be honest. They regenerate tremendous amount of life, like 20% of life every second. So my golems actually never died against Shaper. So it was a total fucking surprise for me, and I thought they would die. So the build is pretty tough and hardcore viable for sure. Let's talk about build effectiveness overall and how strong it is in both mapping and endgame, how tough it is. For the clear speed, I would give it as 3 out of 5, and for a couple of reasons. Like I mentioned earlier, it's very fast in the very beginning, but in the end game it's a little slows down because, you know, it takes a while to kill things, even though it can be instant for trash. But for the rare mobs and for the tough mobs and for the tough kind of increased monster life, elemental resistance, all these map mods, it can take a while to kill things. And still, golems are not the smartest thing in the world. They can get dumb a bit, they can be a bit slow if you're not running with the rampage and viscous leech. So it's not the absolutely fastest build, clear speed build in the world, but it's very, very solid. It has very moderate speed, and I have no problems, you know. I haven't really felt that I'm slowed down and I'm feeling kind of awkward with the clear speed. It's absolutely fine. For the boss damage, I would give it 3 out of 5 easily, even more towards 4 out of 5 maybe, because even though the numbers are not as impressive as maybe Blade Flurry shit, but it takes down bosses very effectively and very safe. They kind of machine gun things at it, and Flame Golems do like 200, around 100 to 200 damage per second, and this is a moderate amount of damage. This is like Volatile Dead, and even though Volatile Dead is not an instant killer without Indigon, it's still a very solid killer, right? And this is where golems are at this point. So 3 out of 5, I think it's very good. It's 3 out of 5. It's very solid boss killer. It always performs well. It's no frustration. It kills bosses. Maybe not the fastest instant kill, but it does job really well. For the AoE, I would potentially give it 4 out of 5 because when you actually run through the open map, they are fucking devastating, and everything on screen. They are very devastating. And if you're not a hoarder like me and you're not taking this fucking silver coins like I do now on the video, then AoE is absolutely good. With GMP and 4 golems, they threw like fucking trillion of fiery shit, and they just one-shot all trash entirely. They're not very fast, but when they reach the shit, it just evaporates, and AoE is extremely good in this build, I think. For the toughness, this is probably the first build that I will give 4 out of 5 out of all my builds, because I felt like I just do not take any damage, and I haven't really died to bosses like a single time. I don't think that any bosses killed me. Most deaths were from either very strong chaos damage, like also sometimes I died to bleed before I realized that I didn't have anti-bleed on my flask. I also ran a trillion of beyond maps with this build because I wanted to level up as fast as possible. So it was very dangerous maps. And I think the toughness is incredible for this build. Your energy shield recharge rate is really strong, and with the Zealous Oath is really good. We have moderate amount of HP, like around 3 to 4,000 for our chaos damage, and from around 4 to 8,000 energy shield, even with the non-legacy gear for the energy shield, which is extremely good. And this build is pretty damn tough, and it's that tough that I can totally recommend it for hardcore if you know what you're doing. So this is it for the build, guys. I will explain everything in a minor detail in my written part of the build as well. So take a look at the official forums thread for the Path of Exile forum. This is where I will explain all in the minor detail, because sometimes it's not really easy for me to explain everything on the video. So take a look at the forum thread, and thanks for watching, and see you soon.